A film I watched last night that I've been catching up with as part of various streaming films I've been watching recently was Master, a social thriller very much in the Jordan Peele mould. It's the story of two women who have arrived at a elite East Coast college in the US, both of them black. One is the college's new master, the other is a new student. The new college master is somewhat suspicious of the college's history, its lack of much in the way of black representation on its staff, apart from one English lecturer, while the black student is assigned to a dorm room that supposedly was the place where the first black college student at the university killed herself many years earlier and is supposedly cursed. And over the course of the story, both of them find themselves challenged by racial issues. The student finds that the black lecturer marks her much more harshly when writing about racial issues, particularly in terms of the Scarlet Letter, a book that, from what I understand, has no black characters, but still was expected to write an essay looking at it from a racial point of view. And there's also an element of supernatural and a murderer and strange goings on in the master's house, including an infestation of maggots that pour out of the mouth of the portrait that she's had commissioned. And the whole thing is just very, very tiresome. It goes without saying, I think, at this point, that the university system, and particularly the one in the United States, although it's a different setup, has a massive racial problem. Um, so I think I mentioned on Twitter with regard to another film which I couldn't get through watching because it was so badly made. I get it. White people are shitty. I agree. But you need to do more than just saying so over and over again. The film is almost incoherent. Any message that it's trying to communicate, aside from universities have a problem with race, gets lost in the muddle of various plot strands and is there or is there not some kind of supernatural element to the story? Um, there's a speculation on whether or not one of the uh, lecturers is passing for black when in fact they're white. There's also an Amish community that lives nearby that seems to serve no purpose in the story apart from, ooh, Amish spooky. It's very complicated and trips over its own feet in trying to communicate something. I don't know what it's trying to say. It's so garbled and overcomplicated. At the end of the film, the master resigns from the university, stating that she has been employed not to be its master but its maid, reinforcing racial stereotypes from the past. An old photograph she sees of various senior college figures, while in the background a maid is clearing away, and the maid being black. And I thought, well, isn't it the job of the college master to run things the way that one perhaps might say a housekeeper would run things, but they have more control. And it seems to be a weird simplification of the situation that doesn't really make sense. Um, the writer director, whose name has slipped my mind, seems to think that they are Jordan Peele. They're much more like, as I mentioned on Twitter, more like John Peele, the Doctor Who author rather than the DJ. Who would tie himself in knots trying to tell stories that resolved complicated issues, only to make it even more complicated. It's not a very good film. It's quite clumsily put together and badly made. The story makes no sense. The acting is not particularly interesting. It has very little to say, as far as I can tell, and you're better off watching other, more thoughtful and intelligent work.